things are getting strange. The Next Files Rewatch podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Kim.
And we're both very tired.
Oh my god, yes.
Gardening is hard work.
Gardening is very hard work, but rewarding?
Hopefully. Eventually.
When I've got my hearty crop of rhubarb, you'll be really happy with all the work we've done in the garden.
It's true.
But yeah, we have a garden, as I've spoken about on my stream a lot. We've spent a lot of time in that garden today, just sawing things down. It was very overgrown when we moved in here. It's less overgrown now, and one day it will be beautiful.
It will. I think this is our polite way of saying we've got no news as usual.
No, we're just well exercised today.
We are. Okay, so we'll go and play some Hangman.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay. So, plus one. Directed by Kevin Hooks, written by Chris Carter, and first broadcast on the 17th of January 2018. So the most interesting thing about the episode is the casting, as we discovered after watching it.
Which is one of the most impressive things about the episode, to be honest.
Yeah, so we've got Karen Carnival, who we've previously seen in Home as Mrs. Peacock.
Mm-hmm.
She plays little Judy Poundstone and little Chucky Poundstone in a move that neither of us remembered being the case, and you can only just about tell in the episode if you're really focusing on it.
For the record, you've mentioned Mrs. Peacock, but she's also Madame Zelda in Clyde Bruckman.
Oh yes, and there's a few other ones I was going to bring up as well.
Okay.
So she was also in, we might have done her before, but she was also in Scooby-Doo 2.
Uh-huh.
Black Christmas, the remake, 2006.
Yeah, I watched that the other day. I think she's Billy's mom.
Yeah, I think so. Millennium, and Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency.
Okay.
The American one.
So, would you like to give us a synopsis of Plus One?
I would. In a small rural community event in Virginia, Archie Severs appears to see himself in the back of the crowd. Frightened, he drives away from the event, only to have his doppelganger grab the wheel and drive him into a tree. Mulder ties the Severs case to a number of people who have tried to kill themselves after claiming they saw someone who looked exactly like them. Scully thinks Archie is lying, but Mulder is more inclined to believe. The agents meet with a barely alive Severs and discuss his experiences. The agents meet a patient at a psychiatric hospital named Judy Poundstone, who has this dissociative identity disorder. Her room is filled with games of Hangman, which she claims she plays with her brother Chucky, who lives across town. After being placed into a cell, Archie's doppelganger appears in the cell with him and presumably kills him. Mulder and Scully check into a motel to sleep for the night. Mulder comes to her in the middle of the night to reveal Archie's death. Scully argues that it is suicide, while Mulder and Severs' attorney, Dean Cavalier, don't believe so. Mulder finds the irascible Chucky living by himself, with his walls also covered with Hangman games. Meanwhile, Scully meets with Demon Judy, an evil alter ego, who seems to be flinging chocolate pudding at the cell door. A nurse tells Scully that both of the Poundstone parents hanged themselves. Scully tries to get more information out of Judy, but is tormented by this new nemesis by taunts of her supposedly not being young enough to bear children anymore. Chucky and Judy begin playing the game again, this time targeting Cavalier. First, Dean sees his double and goes to tell Mulder and Scully. The agents tell him to stay calm and hide away all the weapons of harm. Dean ventures to his home and tosses multiple equipment onto the floor. He realizes that the room is filled with swords. Dean accidentally cuts himself on one of his blades, but before he can tend to his wound, he sees his double again. The agents arrive to find Cavalier with his head cut off. Back at the motel, Scully has trouble sleeping, wondering if Judy had a point about her advancing age, and seeks comfort from Mulder, which turns physically romantic. After their intimacy, Mulder sees his double in the bathroom and freaks out. Mulder races to confront Chucky as Scully goes to stop Judy. On her way to the hospital, Scully sees her double in the backseat of the car but stays calm, calling the figure a manifest psychic ideation. It turns out the twins are fighting each other but not being able to agree on which agent to hang. Before the agents can interrupt their game, the siblings both hang each other. On Chucky's wall, Mulder finds 2 Hangman games for Mom and Dad.
Thank you.
So it's really odd, because I know what part of this fandom is going to want to fixate on, and I know which bit I'm kind of more curious about, which is the astonishing acting turn by Kristen Carnival.
Okay, so what do you want to talk about first?
It's an astonishing makeup job. At least the little Chucky Poundstone is an amazing feat of costuming and makeup.
Not to mention her voice.
Not to mention
the
her
fact
voice,
they don't sound anything alike either.
No, and you wouldn't sort of. There's no reason to have done this. It's a really strange decision.
Other than making them kind of fraternal twins. Though again, fraternal twins aren't identical twins. So, again, you could have just cast someone who looked a bit similar.
You could have. I mean, it didn't need to be done. I mean, it's a great performance and a great special effect, even though you're missing the usual stunt you get these days of having them both on screen at the same time.
Yeah.
None of that.
No, because the two of them are psychic, they never actually meet in the episode.
Yeah. And to jump on that, I think the weakest part of the episode, weirdly, is the fact that we kind of lose sight of the whole point of the episode. Because what the episode's actually about is not psychic hangman games, it's putting Mulder and Scully into bed together again. Because as far as I can tell, that's what Chris Carter was trying to do.
The fan service.
The fan service. And it's even more blatant, yes, they've slept together, than the Gillian Anderson directed episode with the Sinister Buddha, which was very strange.
Do you want to know my trivia about that motel, which lays some groundwork for what's going to come?
I'm bemused as hell. Okay, go on.
The motel where the two of them sleep together is called St. Rachel's.
Okay.
St. Rachel was famously a woman who was infertile, but then miraculously got pregnant twice, unfortunately dying when she gave birth to her second child.
Oh, no. We're pretty sure Scully's gonna be fine.
Yep.
But oh.
But see, setting the groundwork for things that are gonna come.
It's kind of interesting that I completely forgot that was part of this episode, and it weirdly enough continues into The Lost Heart of Forehead Sweat. There's not much of it, but there's little bits and pieces of it still there.
True, yeah.
It carries on. It's not like other dalliances they've had, where it seems to be very kind of short and that was it.
Mm.
But it feels like there's a whole thing with the episode. The episode sets up with Archie is the only person who's seen his double who survived so far.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's kind of set up at the start, because Mulder sort of says, why is he the only one who survived? And the only answer we can get by the end of the episode is sheer dumb luck.
Yeah.
But also implausible, because I don't know how you survive crashing your car into a tree with no seatbelt on and smashing through the windshield of your truck and surviving, because he looks pretty dead at the start of this episode.
Presumably you can, because people can survive a hell of a lot of punishment, and there'd always be the possibility of survival.
True, but he should look a lot worse than he does.
Oh, I think he should be cut to ribbons.
Yeah, he should not be in as good a state as he is.
But it's that movie trickery where people can be thrown through a plate glass window and be unharmed. Whereas in real life, you would be cut to ribbons.
Yes, or just dead because of the falling blades coming towards you.
Mm.
But it's one of these problems with a lot of X-Files episodes of that's our hook, is there's something different about him, which is why he survived.
Yeah.
And then he just gets killed.
Almost immediately.
And then we sort of just carry on to Dean Cavalier, who... I'll come back to Dean Cavalier because he's kind of hilarious for the weirdest reasons.
His death is spectacular.
Yeah. I would say one thing in memory, and it's been a week since you watched this, but why did the Poundstone want to kill Archie?
They didn't like his name, didn't it specify
was that his name? Was that it? I couldn't remember.
Oh no, it's I liked the name, was the argument.
Oh, okay.
When they asked Judy, she says something like, I liked the name.
Okay. I mean, fair enough. It does... I mean, when you've got the ability to psychically heal someone via hangman and everything else, and also you're as kind of sociopathic as both of them, you probably don't need real reasons to do anything.
It did seem from the way you saw Chucky set up that he was just picking names out of a newspaper.
Yeah. And that was a slightly odd one. But I think that is a bit of a problem of the motive wasn't there. I mean, why did they go for Mulder and Scully at the end? That makes more sense. And getting irritated at each other and turning on them.
I did kind of like that, the fact that they'd essentially been interacting with opposite people and therefore they each thought the other one was spelling out the different name.
Yeah, so that was quite funny. With, what do you mean there's only one L in this or something?
Yeah, and then getting frustrated and turning on each other.
Yeah, so that was... I like it. At the same time, it's a bit too neat, isn't it? After everything else you've got going in this episode, because I don't mind that we don't explain how the power works, because a lot of time you can't explain this kind of phenomena in a way that's going to make sense to anyone anyway.
In a way, it doesn't really matter either.
No. At the same time, I think It's kind of odd that you've got the doppelganger component at all, other than they wanted that for the two siblings to kill each other at the end, because I think that's what Carter wanted. But I don't really understand why you'd have that for the rest of the time, since you're playing hangman, and you'd see it's kind of saying if you were killed by yourself in a very bizarre form of suicide, that should work into the game a bit more.
I thought it was kind of thematically appropriate, actually, because I quite like that, because you had the indication that both of them not only had a kind of dissociative disorder, but they were actually seeing that other persona in the room with them. Because at both points when questioned, they said, that person over there, and pointed to an empty seat.
Oh, so
you always had the concept that they were seeing and interacting with their doppelganger.
So are you positing that they thought this was true of everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone has a dark nemesis who would version themselves.
Yeah, and they were set it, or maybe everyone does have that dark nemesis that they can't see, that was being set upon themselves.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that.
Think of it like the Monty Python one with the guy who's always seeing double.
That's a bit different.
But at the episode, it breaks away and you see that there is the second person sat in the room with him.
Okay, I can see that. That makes some degree of sense. I do kind of like the flippancy of Judy just saying, I play with my brother psychically. And it's like, she's not lying at all.
She's not lying at all, but at the same time, she's completely disregarded because of her mental health.
Yeah, and you'd never believe that she's doing this in a million years unless Mulder was there. I did feel that Mulder fastening on to her when they just go to the hospital was a bit, wow, we need to get the plot moving because you've just stumbled across the right room.
Oh yeah, you've got that. Again, you can excuse some of the things like this when it's a 45-minute episode.
That's true. I don't think I can quite excuse the hospital staff, who seem to be the worst trained nursing team I've ever seen.
Oh, with the pills.
Yeah, well, it's not just so. Yeah, she rolls bread into pills that apparently have magic powers, and the nursing team are taking them just in case they do. But it's the whole, we refuse to go into this room at certain points of time because she scares us too much. It's like, you're trained to deal with patients.
Yeah. At least we've moved on a little from the pilot's mental health nurse who refers to people in comas as vegetables.
That's true. But I was thinking, because of all things, we were watching Candyman yesterday.
We were, yeah. Great film.
Yep. And when Helen Lyle gets committed, people don't sort of back away from her or are afraid of her. They just run in, pin her down, and sedate her.
Yeah.
There's none of this, we don't dare go into the room because she's throwing chocolate pudding around and we're claiming it's Dookie. I don't quite understand why they kept saying that, because she's clearly holding a pot of something.
Yeah.
But Scully calls it Dookie as well later on. And it's like, Scully, it's chocolate pudding. There's no way There's no way they dared the episode if they were going to imply it actually was anything other than chocolate pudding.
One woman, one cup.
Yeah. At the same time, though, broadcasting...
yeah, there's things you can't show.
There's things you can't go. Even if it would have to be a practical effect, you can't imply that directly. So it's chocolate pudding. We can be very assured it was just chocolate pudding she's flinging around. So, Dean Cavalier.
It's one of my favourite scenes of recent X-Files, I think.
Well, it's the bizarre combination of, okay, go home, lock yourself in, and quite how do you think this is going to work, given the case involves seeing your doppelganger, who doesn't seem to be restrained by anything since Arky's appeared in a truck with him.
I thought it had some nice comedic timing because, of course, Mulder and Scully don't know about his samurai sword collection.
No, they don't know about the enormous safe full of firearms in his garage as well.
But I love that for the framing, because early in the episode he does kind of flirt with someone and mention his samurai sword collection. But then you have the long sequence where he realises he's in danger of sharp pointy things in his own home, so he clears out his gun cabinet, he clears out all the tools in his garage, then goes into his main living quarters, turns around, and you just see the walls are covered in samurai swords. It's a brilliant, kind of darkly comical sequence.
It really is, and in fact that's what does him in.
Yeah.
You do have to wonder again, it's like, how can Arky, who does appear to be like a kind of dirtbag kind of guy, afford a lawyer who can afford to live like that?
Yeah.
Because he's not going to be cheap if he can afford that house with that kind of samurai sword collection.
True.
Although it's knowing anything about Japan, you then look at them and go, those are unlikely to be real, given Japan is really twitchy about what happens to katanas.
You often find that katanas you see in people's collections, in the UK at least, aren't bladed.
Yeah.
They're, just blunt replicas, because Japan is very, very restrictive with actually letting people in the West buy authentic katanas.
Yes, there's an anecdote about Steve Jobs who tried to buy some shuriken in Japan.
Okay.
And he was prevented from leaving on his private jet till he gave them back to the government.
That makes sense.
And we know it's like there are real katana blades in like the British Museum, but that's been specifically donated by the country. That's not something they've acquired via some other method.
Well, the Japan exhibit in the British Museum in London is sponsored by Mitsubishi, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Mm.
So we know those things. That one is provably real.
Mm.
But yeah, it's you probably don't own. You might own some forged katanas, but they're not going to be real. They're going to be replicas made in the West or something by someone else. It's still a very funny scene. And it does lead to one of those... Is Chris Carter still, like, running the Scully like he was in season 1? Because it's the Scully saying, oh, there's possibly some way he could have done this to himself. It's like, how? How? I'm not saying there's no way you can cut your own head off.
Well, I told you, there is a famous... I wouldn't say a dumb ways to die, but one of these kind of unusual death cases where somebody, and I can't remember all the specifics, but they killed themselves with a chainsaw, but it required them kind of setting up a rig so they could run headlong at the chainsaw and decapitate themselves.
Yeah.
Which would mean that you would find the frame and everything and you'd be able to piece it together.
Yes. It's not that you can't cut your own head off, it's the fact there would be evidence of how you did it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be left in the bizarre situation of him just lying in the middle of the floor in a pool of blood with a sword beside him.
Well, for example, I'll cite one of my favourite podcasts is Mr. Ballen's Strange, Dark and Mysterious, which has a specific one about someone who did decapitate themselves within their own home. And to cut a long story short, I can't remember the name of the specific episode and it's kind of interesting, but he'd constructed a rudimentary guillotine that was designed that it, if he lay under it and just essentially, I think he took some pills and drifted off to sleep, but it would just activate after a certain length of time.
Okay.
So again, then you'd walk in and you'd see the complete evidence and you'd be able to know exactly what happened there.
Is it me, or is there not actually much to this episode, in retrospect?
No, when you're talking about it, it's nice because it's actually been the best Monster of the Week episode in a long while.
Yes, I would say this was a surprise given the kind of really rough start to the season. And for Carter, of all people, to come in with a pretty decent one-off there is, even though I know I can pretty much tell what he's doing, but at least the framing around it is decent.
Yeah, I think Caraval's stellar performance notwithstanding, it's still never going to make any, top episode lists.
No.
But it's very satisfying.
Yeah, well, I said that at the top. I think that's the problem with it, is the most impressive thing is that she did this. It's little Chucky Poundstone is an astonishing achievement. And I kind of felt the episode probably should have been based around that a bit more.
I think it takes things out of a lot more memorable episodes too, because there's a lot of the list in this episode, for example.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's more tongue-in-cheek than the list is, but it's still that kind of idea of essentially a ghost killing people.
Yes. And it's briefly funny to sort of see Scully trying to talk down her double in the car and Mulder actually getting into a scrap with his.
Yeah.
But then it just feels like it's not lingered on long enough. It's like it's actually very brief, the bit where Mulder and Scully are actually in danger.
I think the rules of the doppelgangers, while we don't need an explanation of exactly how it
rules.
works, it needs to be set out a bit clearer. Just because there are situations where the doppelgangers speak to people, sometimes they linger at a distance outside windows, sometimes they make the deaths look accidental, sometimes, like in the case of Dean, it's quite obviously not accidental.
Yeah, I suppose that's a good point, that's all over the shop.
Because Mulder speaks at the start about these interconnected cases, which I'm not sure how we interconnected them in the first place, because they involve things like people jumping off bridges.
Yeah. So I think more than anything else, you needed the countdown timer of how long you had between the first doppelganger and when it actually got you, because that felt like there was a timeline in place.
So you'd have it like The Ring, it's 7 days or whatever.
Yeah, and it's also not clear if the duration is meant to be how long the Hangman game takes. I think they were trying to play that a bit.
I think what we were getting at is every time they get a letter correct, there's a
see
doppelganger.
yeah.
Because, for example, I think Dean says he's seen it 3 times
Yeah.
before that final time.
But then Mulder and Scully, both, since they have quite a few common letters in their names, actually got to have at least 3 letters, or no, 2 letters down, I suppose. So, yeah. Yeah, I think they just need more focus on it. And thinking about it now, I wonder if It Follows was an influence.
I guess It Follows must have come first, right?
I'm pretty sure It Follows was 2016, so
So
be 2 years before this.
It Follows, to explain to people, is a movie which is like a almost kind of urban legend STD, let's say, where two people sleep together, and in doing so they pass along this entity like a virus that moves towards them at a walking pace, but if it reaches them it will kill them.
Yeah, 2014 it turns out.
2014, okay.
Yeah, so it could very easily have been an inspiration.
But given that this entity is slightly different in It Follows because it can appear however it wants to.
Yes.
So sometimes it's a complete stranger and sometimes it's someone you'll recognise, which may allow it to get closer because you don't initially realise it's a monster.
Yeah, and sometimes it's definitely been past victims.
Mm.
And It Follows is really good, and there's a lot of questions over how much of what we think of its processes are actually accurate, given that it does seem to not so much break rules as it acts slightly differently in some circumstances, and you can't ever be sure why, because all you've got is a second-hand account from someone else who wasn't necessarily getting things first-hand anyway.
Yeah. So there are just one or two points in the movie where it doesn't seem to follow its MO. For example, there's one scene where you just see it standing motionless on a roof.
Yes.
Which doesn't follow the thing of it's supposed to continuously be moving.
Yeah, and also a apparently vindictive streak it has right at the end, which isn't revealed until the last few seconds of the film, exactly why it freaks the main character out so much.
Yeah.
It's an interesting film, and I don't know if we're optimistic or wary of the sequel in the works.
They Follow or something like that, isn't it?
It's very much I don't know if it needed one, but might be able to pull this off.
Yeah.
We'll see. I was going to say, if we haven't got much else, because I think it's... What you come away from this episode are Karen Carnival's incredible performance and the makeup team who managed to turn into Little Chucky Poundstone.
Yeah.
And Mulder and Scully are an item again.
Or at least they're friends with benefits.
They're dating. Because that's a specific point in Lost Art of Forest.
Okay.
There is a specific line from Scully. And this will also link into the unpronounceable episode title.
Ah, yes, the string of letters and numbers.
Yes, because they're explicitly on a date.
God, I hope you have to summarise that one. I'm going to make you say the name so many times.
I know you are. But if we haven't got anything else, we should head on to, despite what I just said, the last episode of The X-Files.
Yay!
Woo! The Lost Art of Forehead Sweat. Written and directed by Darren Morgan. It's one of the first things we wanted to know about season 11, and it was, yes, he's doing another episode. And then we said, hooray! We'll watch it now. First broadcast on the 21st of January 2018. Guest stars. There are two, but only one of them has done anything we've ever seen. Because the Stuart Margolin played Dr. They, who I thought would have been some significant person, but no.
Okay.
He's done a lot of stuff, but nothing that really relevant to us.
All right, fair enough.
And so we have Brian Husky, who played Reginald Murgatroyd.
He's Google.
He is Google. That was the last on my list. We've seen him in Superbad, of all things. He's the principal.
All right.
The disaster artist.
Okay.
He's the guy who he has to check into and says that the account has no bottom.
Okay, yeah.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I don't remember at all.
No.
Bob's Burgers. He is regular size Rudy.
Oh, okay.
So in every instance, that's him. Parks and Rec. He's in Arrested Development. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And yeah, he was Google.
He's Google.
He's Google. So would you like to tell us about The Lost Art of Forehead Sweat?
I absolutely would. Our pre-credits sequence this time is a climatic scene from a lost episode of The Twilight Zone, in which we see a man in a cafe revealing his fears that Martians are invading the Earth disguised as human beings. When the waiter points the man towards a mirror, the man is shocked to see that he, in fact, is the Martian, and the waiter is the devil. As we cut to the actual happenings of the episode, Mulder meets a man named Reggie in an underground garage. Reggie claims that they've known each other for a long time. He tells Mulder that someone is trying to erase him from history, and to prove his point, he makes reference to Mulder's childhood memory of watching the Lost Martian episode of The Twilight Zone. At home, Mulder digs through his Twilight Zone collection, remembering vividly the episode but unable to find it anywhere. Similarly later, Scully also has an experience with Reggie, now going by the last name Something, in which he gives her a container full of a cherry-flavoured Jell-O ripoff called Goopo ABC, which she, again, remembers vividly from her childhood. But on researching it, she discovers it's kind of a Mandela effect, and what she might actually be remembering is Jell-O 123. So on realising that this all seems to be some kind of Mandela effect, the two of them meet with Reggie, in which Reggie, who refers to it instead as the Mengele effect, rants that it is all caused because they are trying to control the populace by erasing memories. Mulder is of course confused by this, because he points out the fact that conspiracy theories often vaguely refer to they and give them intentionality to random events. However, Reggie explains that this is actually wrong, and they is actually the name of one specific scientist, Dr. They, who has learned how to manipulate the collective unconscious. Reggie shows Scully and Mulder an online video which details the entire life of Dr. Thaddeus They, who first learned how to manipulate memories while working at NASA, and perfected his technique while working at a United States hospital in Grenada, which is how Reggie first came in contact with him. Dr. They now works in the private sector, applying his knowledge from all kinds of cases, ranging from corporate products liability to Holocaust denial. Reggie goes on further to talk about his time in Grenada, explaining that he observed an alien survivor of a crashed spaceship being taken from the hospital by the American military. These experiences are what led Reggie to found the X-Files on starting at the FBI. It turns out that Reggie has actually always been Scully and Mulder's partner from the beginning. And he was even there on that fateful day in 1993 when Dr. Dana Scully first arrived in the basement office. We also see following this a montage of other memorable scenes that you may not remember actually had Reggie in them. Unfortunately, before Reggie can tell them anything further, two henchmen of Dr. They appear and chase Reggie away. Mulder is still quite obviously sceptical of this, but receives a call from Dr. They himself, who meets with Mulder in a very obvious public place. On meeting Mulder, Dr. They ominously introduced himself by saying, "You're dead," but quickly defines this as meaning Mulder's purpose via the X-Files and chasing down conspiracies is dead because the truth no longer matters. Dr. They then continues to explain that in this day and age, the truth does not matter because you believe whatever you want to believe, and that's what everybody does anyway. Scully researches further into Reggie and reveals that he's never actually been involved with the FBI. He's actually a long-term US government employee and eventually had a complete mental breakdown and was institutionalized. His actual name is Reggie Murgatroyd. We see a montage that shows a lot of these positions in the US government that were held by Reggie. The final position was for the NSA, which revealed that Reggie used his position to frequently eavesdrop on Mulder and Scully, which is how he knows so much about the X-Files. At this point, an ambulance from the Spotnip Sanitarium does arrive to take Reggie back. While Reggie is being loaded onto a stretcher, Mulder asks him to recount their last X-Files case together, perhaps feeling a bit sympathetic. Reggie recounts an experience where he, Mulder and Scully, met with an alien with some decidedly Donald Trump-esque mannerisms. The alien represented the intergalactic union of sentient beings from all known universes and beyond, and tells the trio that he no longer wants anything to do with Earth, which he says just isn't sending them their best people. Although the aliens are building a wall around the Earth to cut it off from the rest of the galaxy, so there are no hard feelings, the alien does leave them with a book, which answers any questions that they may have involving life, the universe, and anything. The alien leaves them by saying goodbye and good riddance. However, Mulder, now distraught with there being no more answers for him to seek, breaks down into a childish temper tantrum as Reggie and Scully embrace, admitting their feelings for each other. Back in the present day, Reggie's ambulance pulls out of the parking lot, at which point Skinner arrives to witness this and asks Mulder, where the hell are they taking Reggie? Much to his and Scully's surprise. Back at Mulder's house, Mulder and Scully actually do watch the episode The Lost Martian. Mulder has realised that it's not actually a Twilight Zone episode, but a cheap knock-up show called Dusky Realm. Scully serves some goopo that she's made in Mulder's mould of a Sasquatch foot. However, she decides not to eat it, telling Mulder, "I want to remember it how it was."
Thank you. And we can safely say the last line is the key to the entire episode.
Yep.
How you should be thinking about the X-Files, given that this is it.
Yeah, this is the final episode.
Yeah.
All the questions have been answered.
Exactly. It's very much, it's reminiscent of Sunshine Days, but this one possibly more satirical and more up to the minute than Sunshine Days was. Sunshine Days was very much a how to send things off in the happiest way.
It's certainly a bit more modern, given that there are so many jabs at the Trump administration in this episode, for example.
Yes, and I also thought it's a lot of what Dr. Day says is a factor of the modern days that the X-Files should have to grapple with and just hasn't. Like, the season 10 didn't grapple with it, and no other episode of season 11 grapples with it, except for this episode does say we've made that point a lot of times that Mulder's ambition is kind of futile because he can't reveal the truth when he's working for the FBI.
Mm.
But this episode then underscores that even if he comes out with it, it's not going to do any good. We've made the anecdote before, but that one about the Yakuza Majima spin-off, where it was leaked 6 months prior to release or acknowledgement that you're going to control Majima in Hawaii on a pirate ship.
And everyone thought it was made up.
Yeah. And it's like, the objective truth is malleable these days.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy that this is the only episode that deals with that. I love Dr. They. He's such an amazing character.
Dr. Thaddeus They.
It's the fact that when he meets Mulder, he's just shaming him, and that he's in the phone book and posts his own video online.
I love his video.
His video is great.
Where it shows him at the Trump inauguration, kind of clinging to the top of the Lincoln Memorial. Is it the Washington Memorial? What's that thing called?
The Washington Memorial.
The Washington Memorial.
Yeah. Lincoln's actual Lincoln statue, isn't it?
Yeah, the one that looks like Cleopatra's Needle.
Yeah, that's the Washington Memorial. But yeah. And, just shaming Mulder. And then I think, as well, though, when Reggie's showing it to Mulder, it's like, look at these comments. Oh, the editing could have been tighter. Like, these are real YouTube comments.
You also, in his video, have some really neat nudges to the Mandela effect in action.
Yes.
Because it's things like when he talks about the record number of crowds that turned out for the inauguration.
Yeah.
Which is very famous for having a very thin crowd.
Yes, and all the manipulated photos and everything at the time.
Yeah.
That's a lot of jabs in this episode.
We should probably actually talk about the Mandela effect, just in case anyone doesn't know what it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, it came prominence around the time of this episode, or just before this episode, with the Berenstain Bears? Berenstain Bears?
The Berenstain, but
Berenstain.
People en masse remember it being the Berenstein Bears.
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk of parallel dimensions, which this episode does quite a lot as a punchline.
Yeah. So the name the Mandela effect comes from the kind of collective belief that Nelson Mandela died in prison in the 1980s, when he actually died in 2013 free.
Yeah, and I can honestly say it's like finding out that people believe that was really sort of confusing. It's like they're the world, because I'd never encountered that thought process.
But there will be Mandela effects that you have encountered. There are particularly a lot in popular culture, usually concerning misremembered, very famous movie lines.
Although when you went through them, I think it was Forrest Gump was the only one that tripped me over. That he does what?
Yeah, I've got to admit, the line "life is like a box of chocolates" is never uttered in Forrest Gump. It's like life was like a box of chocolates.
And even Cigarette Smoking Man got that one wrong.
Yep. But other famous ones include "You're gonna need a bigger boat." People often mishear as "We're gonna need a bigger boat." "Fly, my pretties, fly" is never uttered by the Wicked Witch of the West. She says "fly, fly, fly." "Play it again, Sam."
I thought that was a well-known one.
Yeah, that's a well-known, but it's, again, and "Luke, I am your father." The line is, "No, I am your father."
Yep. Everyone goes for "Luke, I am your father," because otherwise it doesn't actually it's not clear what you're referencing.
But there are other real-world ones as well. One of the most famous ones is the fact that the Fruit of the Loom logo has never had a cornucopia in it, but most people remember that it did.
Yeah. It's very weird, and presumably, ultimately, it's down to, despite what the Blessing Way episode of The X-Files insisted, human memory is terrible.
Mm.
There's a lot of scientific research on it, and it's, from memory, oh, how fallible is that? But all of it is that when you remember something, you are reconstructing the memory every time. And then that becomes the memory you recall next time. So each time, you aren't getting the pure memory, you're getting a reconstructed version of it, and it will slowly, in different ways, it'll slowly slip out of alignment with what was actually happening.
It's interesting, some of them as well, though, the fact that so many people misrepresent it. But a lot of times you can also attribute it to, maybe you've all seen the same parody of someone saying, "Luke, I am your father."
Yeah.
And therefore you're remembering the parody, not the original event.
Yes.
Or ditto, you've seen something that's recreated the Fruits of the Loom logo with the cornucopia. So again, you're remembering that particular image.
Yeah. And we'll get out of this before we vanish down the rabbit hole of, God, how can you trust anything ever said by anyone in literally any context, because God, the nature of reality is thin.
It could, of course, be parallel worlds. It's that butterfly flapping its wings again.
I do like how every time it's like Mulder keeps suggesting it could be parallel world, and Reggie and Scully just shut him down every time. It's not parallel worlds.
Yeah. But Reggie has been there the entire time. Skinner can remember him.
Yes, and then we'll point out that there's a very brief flash of him in this, when they're going to the X-Files archive.
Yes, you mentioned it very briefly that we'd have to come back to that, but you do see Reggie's photo while they're flipping through.
And I do like the gag of someone was here the whole time, and I'm never sure if I want it to be done well or want it to be done sloppily, because they integrate Reggie into the footage quite well when you see the flashbacks.
I did see an account written by Darren Morgan in an interview where he commented that that was the last thing they actually did, and it was a lot harder than he thought, because he realised going through looking for iconic scenes, because one, they have to be scenes that fans will likely recognise.
Yeah.
But a lot of scenes with Mulder and Scully, because they're the only two characters, they're very, very close-up images with just the two of them in frame, so there was no way he could slot a third person into shot. So it was the difficulty of balancing it, and he said he had to watch the entire series on fast forward just to spot the correct points where he could actually get Reggie into frame.
And he chose some good ones. There's like Squeeze. No, it's not Squeeze. It's Tombs specifically is in there.
Yep, there's Tombs. There is Tessel Stuff's Beach House, because he has the comment about this better not be cats.
Yeah. Clyde Bruckman, of course.
The pilot. Small Potatoes and Home, I think.
Yeah, I think I saw a comment from someone that Small Potatoes is particularly interesting, given that Darren Morgan played Eddie Van Blunt.
And you particularly have Reggie entering the room and gunning him down.
Yeah. Shapes his back from Mulder and he shoots him anyway. Yeah, that was good fun.
I really like the one with Home as well, where it's Reggie figuring out the fact that they're all inbred. And he just makes the kind of, oh boy, sort of noise.
But, I mean, it's a gag that it frustrates me a bit that we never got to see it in things like Invader Zim. Because there was meant to be a running gag after the episode he was introduced of Minnie Moose. He's been with me the entire time, and they're going to insert him into episodes.
This is Minnie Moose. He's been with me the entire time. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was going to lead to a series of gags of flashbacks.
But as it comes, it kind of works pretty well in Zim, because Minnie Moose only appears in the final episode.
And the film, Florpus.
Yeah, he comes in Florpus, but Florpus was made substantially after the main series. So as it stood for a long time, you had this joke that they kind of say in the final episode that this character's always been there who hasn't.
Yeah. And we do get it in this one to an extent, because I think it's funny enough, you can't decide which way Reggie's sanity is going until Skinner, as a presumed authority, comes in and says, oh, where's Reggie been taken?
I love that, just having the one person on the outside who kind of confirms Reggie's existence, which then therefore means that this entire episode canonically happens.
Yes, and Dr. Day really has manipulated the world and erased all traces of Reggie Murgatroyd from existence.
But also means that the aliens are building the wall around the planet and we're going to have no further contact with them.
Yeah. So there's still the one joke, which is when Mulder meets Dr. Day, his actual arch nemesis, which I liked as well. The shaming thing was quite good.
Oh, when he's rubbing his fingers together.
It took you this long to find out it exists. It's like, yeah, that is pretty good. Your actual arch nemesis has showed up for the first time.
Yeah.
But a lot of people said it was like the biggest laugh of the episode is that they're in this art installation in Vancouver and they're claiming it's Washington. And I'm sure that's hilarious if you're aware that this thing exists. Because I wasn't.
It's called something like The Amazing Sculpture or something with the word maze in it. Yeah, I looked it up. But I'd never seen it before either.
It's like, I'm sure it's hilarious to everyone who knows this, but us poor schlubs in the UK are going, well, that's a really creepy place to film an episode.
Yeah. I like the way they use the sculpture in shots as well, because there's like a sequence where Mulder's doubting and it looks like the statue behind him is shrugging.
Yeah. Oh, it is well chosen.
Yeah.
It's still odd, though, that as much as +1 was about Scully getting older.
Yeah.
And some very real life concerns she has,
I'm still going to put this out there of I think this is my favourite X-Files episode. It's so perfect.
I'd say it's my second favourite, but it's the way the X-Files should have ended again. And it's like Sunshine Days as well, though Sunshine Days' whole point was you get a choice. You can have the truth. It will cost you personally more than you probably want to pay. You will regret the price you paid for this in the end. You can have the answers, not going to do you any good long term, or you can be happy with your loved ones. This episode is you can keep seeking answers, but it's never going to be like you remember it being. So, I mean, it's really a great argument for the revival shouldn't have happened, basically. The X-Files is better within your memory of it.
I love the idea of wrapping up the X-Files like a bad episode of The Twilight Zone as well.
That too.
When you've got the really almost Megamind-looking alien descending with a book that literally is the ultimate answer to the ultimate question that he passes to him.
I love the bad dubbing on the alien and the fact they keep it up all the way through the episode.
Mm. Did you know there was a comment about how the actor had everyone in stitches because the little, do you call them hoverboards?
You call them hoverboards,
like a Segway without the stick. But that was something the actor brought with him and was using to get around. And when they saw how essentially stupid it looked, a grown man on one of these things, they said, no, that's got to go in the episode.
That does explain a lot.
And I think it was Darren Morgan made a comment about how it was a good job that the alien communicates telepathically because he was just in stitches and it's the most he's ever laughed through that sequence.
It is really good.
Mm.
I mean, I like also the fairly inexplicable Third Rock from the Sun reference.
I'm pretty sure that is the bluff from Third Rock.
It looks like, well, I mean, the bluff in Third Rock is actually a set, but they're filming on something that looks a lot like it, and they've got the convertible that they had in Third Rock from the Sun. It's really a weird combination of that and then just some making Earth Mexico, of all things, in interplanetary terms.
Yeah. But also it's one of those statements that seems even more outlandish when you're kind of attributing it to a sci-fi setting as well, which makes you... When you lampoon a statement like that, you realise how stupid the statement is, too. Yeah.
Well, again, it's like a Weremonster. It's if you invert the scenario, suddenly it becomes even more inextricably stupid than it was in the first place.
Yeah. Because, of course, it is an incredibly stupid statement either way.
Absolutely.
But the Twilight Zone episode, for the record, because you mentioned it actually was a real one when we were watching it, the episode is called Will the Real Martian Please Stand Up? And it is framed slightly differently. It's, from what I recall, a UFO crash lands and it's a bunch of people sheltering the diner in the Thing style, realising that one of them may be the alien, and trying to logic out which one it is. And ultimately it turns out that two people in that diner are aliens, but they're like on opposite sides of the conflict. So one of them is a Martian and one's a Venusian, I think, or something like that.
I was going to say, I think the Dusky Realm has to have been inspired by Futurama as well, because the way they do that episode, it's not a million miles away from the 20-second Scary Door episodes that Futurama has.
Some of those are great.
If you've never watched Futurama, and it's like, try to look for Scary Door clips, because the first 4 of them also is absolutely hysterical.
There's only about 5 or 6 total.
Yeah, and the 2 best ones, I think, are Turns Out It's Man and the most humble of God's creations.
Oh, the one that's a really, really long-winded parody of War of the Worlds.
Yeah, and you think, it's been so long thinking they've missed the point of the Scary Door, and they hit you with the punchline. You go, no, you understand the premise.
Yeah, it is just the likes of Twilight Zone or The Outer Limits taken to the absolute extreme.
Yeah. Turns Out It's Man, I think a friend of mine said, that actually is just every Twilight Zone episode and Outer Limits boiled down to their actual core components.
There is one where it does the Twilight Zone episode with the man who kind of becomes Hitler.
Yes.
Where they kind of lampoon that and make it more ridiculous.
Well, it's because I think it's every other episode of Twilight Zone mashed into one.
Yeah. Why will I believe you when you're Hitler?
Well, it's because he's the gambler who always wins, and that's horrifying to him.
Yeah.
I do like Mulder's kind of geekery of like being appalled when Scully suggests that maybe it's the Outer Limits he's remembering instead of the Twilight Zone.
To be fair, the Twilight Zone was better than the Outer Limits. Let's be.
I don't think I've actually seen the Twilight Zone or the old Outer Limits. I've seen the 2000s reboot of The Outer Limits, which was very inspired by The X-Files.
See, I used to like these kind of anthology things when I was a kid, but I preferred the more horror-bent ones. Like, I like Tales from the Dark Side, Tales of the Unexpected, Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah.
Those kind of things were more my horror fan bread and butter. But, these little anthology series are kind of nice because you can just pick up and watch an episode with kind of no need to have any continuity.
Yeah. But getting back to the point of the episode, though, I do like that Mulder is handed the answers in this theoretical last case that only Reggie remembers.
Mm.
And Mulder does recognise that it's not about getting the answers, ultimately. I mean, like, much for the audience. And for some reason, the only thing I can think of right now is Millennium Actress, of the pursuit was the important part to her.
Mm.
I mean, she doesn't unfortunately spell that out at the end of the film, and she didn't really need to, but the whole point was the pursuit, rather than actually finding the guy.
So, Millennium Actress is a movie by Satoshi Kon, a Japanese animated film.
Yes, and no synopsis of it will make it sound that appealing. You're going to have to just trust us and go with it, because you were really resistant to watching it. It took me quite a while to weigh you down.
I am a huge Satoshi Kon fan.
And you didn't want to go near it.
Perfect Blue is probably one of my favourite films of all time. Paranoia Agent is a masterpiece. And I read the synopsis of Millennium Actress and thought, nope, that's not one for me. But when I did see it, it is fantastic. It is one of his best films.
It is. And a lot of that's due to how... Some of it's just how involving the whole experience is, and some of it's how it handles the flashbacks, which are not how you think they'd be handled. Because some of the cutting in and out of reality is more involved than you think it would be.
Like all of Kon's films, it kind of focuses on memory and recollection, and kind of does so in a really interesting way.
Yeah. Mulder is basically like the main character of Millennium Actress, at least in Reggie's fantasy sequence there, of, it's all about the pursuit. And it's that recognition again. It's much... Because Darren Morgan didn't sort of touch on... Sorry, no, Vince Gilligan didn't touch on the conspiracy so much, but Darren Morgan certainly is saying that the answers aren't going to be satisfying.
Mm.
Monster of the Week episodes are our way forward. So that's all we can give you, is we can just keep adding on to this, and that'll be fine.
Yeah. I said it about Sunshine Days. I would have been happy if the X-Files ended with Sunshine Days, rather than go on and kind of ruin that with the truth. I'd also be happy if the X-Files ended here.
Yes, either one of them are... This is your last stop to end happily. It's difficult to say because we can't remember this season very well. There might be bits coming up that people like. People like the Unpronounceable episode. I remember people were very fond of that one, and I didn't rate it.
The Monster of the Week fans also like Familiar. The one with Mr. Chuckleteeth.
Oh, that one. But we'll safely say that this is the emotional end of the X-Files.
It's so well. It's hard not to think of Darren Morgan as doing a really good job, because Darren Morgan episodes are always really well written. But this episode just feels right.
Yes, and I think someone put out, it's an episode that shouldn't get such high marks, because a lot of it is people standing around in a parking lot talking. And it's weirdly that doesn't matter, because that all adds to the effect he's going for.
It's a narrative episode, but it's a very compelling one. And as you said, that final scene with Mulder and Scully choosing not to eat the Jell-O because she wants to remember as it was, is poignant at this stage.
Yeah.
Where we do want to remember the X-Files of like the first 5 seasons.
Yeah. And it's the revival is, we want to recapture that, and we can't. It's gone.
Mm. It's a different age. It's like Dr. They points out as well, is the fact that people just believe whatever the hell they want. You don't even need to try and convince them anymore.
Yeah.
As we've seen with Tad O'Malley as well, we've hit the internet age now. It's not the same conspiracy world in the Trump era as it was when the X-Files first started.
Yep.
As we've said before 9/11, when conspiracies were cute.
Yes. Mulder could never hope to do what he said he was going to, but he really can't anymore, because it just isn't going to do anything. Dr. They has won.
I should note, Dr. They makes me think of Bela Lugosi every time I see him.
I think that's
He's a very... the Bela Lugosi of Plan 9 from Outer Space we're looking here. Yeah. The Edward Bela Lugosi.
Martin Landau as Bela Lugosi.
He's got a bit of Martin Landau about him as well, actually. Yeah. But it's that kind of feeling of the hammed up sci-fi character.
But it also just... It's that thing the X-Files can't grapple with. or at least none of the other episodes could grapple with, of Dr. Day isn't hiding. Because he's like the antithesis of the entire syndicate of, he doesn't need to do anything.
He even meets with Mulder in the open, not in some shadowy back alley.
Exactly. He's in the phone book. He publishes his own videos on the dark web. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. It's nihilistic, but it also feels right.
It does. It's a commentary on the time that it was written, but also then sort of says, yeah, this reboot was kind of futile.
Yeah.
If you were being less than charitable, you'd say this is stealing Vince Gilligan's homework and passing off as your own. On the other hand, though, Vince was coming at this from a very different angle. Darren Morgan is looking at this in terms of the whole series. Because it's easy to miss that he's a series producer or something. He's much more involved with 10 and 11 than he was in any previous season.
Yeah.
So he's got some kind of guidance on this, and I, for some reason, couldn't say to Chris Carter, can this be the final episode? And presumably Carter said, no, I must write the final episode. I wrote the first one, I've got to write the last one. Like, no, you really don't, Chris. This is the final episode.
I don't need the Alpha and the Omega, I just want this.
This is how it ends. We might retract the comment. I don't think we're going to retract the comment. We might say the season could have been reordered. This episode could come later, I think, is the best we're going to say. Last, but if you've got the series creator who insists on having the final word, it's going to be the penultimate episode at best, isn't it?
Last.
Should be last, but it's not. But yeah, if you want the best point about on the X-Files, it's this one. And just ignore that Perihelion exists, because from what you've been telling me about the book, it feels a bit of a headache.
Don't know what you mean. I've sent you screen caps. I've been cutting out choice paragraphs for you. I thought you'd enjoy.
I get wanting to make people aware that you like a thing, but I do think that it can be better or worse handled than how the author Perihelion done it.
When I read the line, alien DNA is only the beginning, I thought of you.
Yeah, but how about the bit where she's wearing an Avatar t-shirt?
That's Avatar. She's our new informant.
Yes.
It's actually better. Well, I think we're being a bit unfair on Perihelion. There are things I really like about it, but I'll get to it later.
I think the bat symbol as a calling card is that it's cute, but that's a lot more effort than putting an X on your window.
But we're actually giving Scully a voice in Perihelion as well,
I
which
know,
she hasn't really had.
It cuts both
but
ways.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that. But anyway, if you want a good point to end the X-Files on and leave as happy as you're going to, I choose this. I was thinking the other day that when we get to do the roundup of the roundup, we eventually have to say, okay, so what are the best X-Files episodes that Darren Morgan didn't write? We just have to shuffle them off to one side.
I think I've mentioned it before, back when I used to run a blog and I did a best and worst X-Files episodes thing on there. I split them and did the best comedy and non-comedy episodes because I thought my list would be too kind of unfairly kind of leaning towards Darren Morgan, should we say?
Well, it's Darren and Vince all the way.
Yeah.
But anyway, so unfortunately, if you want to bow out, you can now skip to the episode after the end of season 11, where we'll get into our best and worst. If you want to stay the course and go through the remaining 6 episodes with us.
So next up for the record will be Ghoulie and Kitten, I think.
Oh!
Almost a Wilhelm scream there.
Yeah, I can't actually do the Wilhelm scream. Oh. Ghoulie had such promise for 10 minutes.
We'll get there. You're rewatching it. You've only seen it once.
That's true.
Let's be fair.
That's true. And Kitten is, I hate to tell you this, America, but I do not care about the Vietnam War. Stop it. Skinner in Vietnam is not interesting. We're going to have to deal with it. Still don't get the were-rats we were promised.
The comic gives you were-rats.
The comic gives me were-rats.
Oh, it wasn't the comic, sorry. It was the short story collection.
Yes.
Gives you were-rats.
If you'd like to get hold of us, our email address is thingsgettingstrange42@gmail.com.
If you would like to hook me up on social media, and my topic this week is The Lost Art of Forehead Sweat is the best episode of The X-Files, prove me wrong. You can find us on Twitter and Tumblr at GetStrange42, on Mastodon at GetStrange42 at universedon.com, or on Facebook, where you can find us by searching for Things Are Getting Strange and X-Files Rewatch Podcast. Additionally, if you're not sick of my voice right now, I do have a stream live on Twitch TV under the name AdverseCamber42. I'm live Mondays and Wednesdays at 8pm GMT and Saturdays at 5pm GMT, where I'm currently playing Yakuza 0 and Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, both on PlayStation 4.
Our theme music is Vision by Kevin MacLeod. You can find it on Computech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Thank you all for listening, and until next time, please remember, the truth is out there.
The truth is out there.